Our first reading is Psalm 133. Listen for a word from God. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. It is like precious oil poured on the head, running down on the beard, running down on Aaron's beard, down on the collar of his robe. It is as if the dew of Hermon were falling on Mount Zion. For there the Lord bestows his blessing, even life forevermore. The second reading is from Mark chapter 4, verses 35 to 41. Jesus calms the storm. That day when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along, just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat, so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Should I start with a dad joke? What did 0 say to 8? Nice belt.
Nice belt.
Peter, you're the master of jokes. Yeah, I'm sorry. All right, I apologize. No, that's all. I got one. Yeah. Sue asked me if I would help out with the service, and I was happy to help out, particularly since I wrote this reflection for Father's Day a number of years ago when Betsy was out for the day. So I apologize for those who heard it before. If by some chance Sue needs me to help out on Father's Day a number of years from now, you'll probably hear it again. So I apologize for that as well. But what can I say? I'm not a preacher. And by the same token, I'm not anywhere near as well versed in the Bible as our pastor Lance. But today is Father's Day. So if it's all right with you, I'd like to pay homage to my father and the fathers before him who have helped shape my life. There are many stories in the Bible about fathers, from Noah and all he did for his family and all the animals of the earth, to the story about how the enduring love of a father in the prodigal son. In some respects, the entire New Testament is about the incredible sacrifice the Father, our Father, made in giving his only son to all of us. But my stories will be less about the Bible and more about the fathers I know. I was fortunate to have a wonderful relationship with my dad growing up. He never forgot what it was like to be a kid. On summer nights, he would organize huge games of flashlight tag or kickball and would always play along with us. He helped me build a sail for my little red wagon, and then would push me all over the neighborhood when it didn't work. We built wings for my bicycle, motorbikes, and snow forts. My dad had died when he was only 13, and I think he realized how precious that time of being with your dad is. My father, Max, was raised in Florida and was 10 years younger than his closest sibling. His dad had moved the family to Florida to retire after selling a successful string of hardware stores in Marion, Ohio. Unfortunately, the Great Depression wiped out most of his investments from the sale of the business. A devastating fire destroyed their home and took the rest. In what should have been the retirement years, he went on the road as a traveling salesman. He sold vanilla extract and other flavorings to bakeries throughout the South. He would spend as much time as he could with my dad when he returned from his long trips. When my dad was old enough, he would go with him on his sales trips. When he was 12 years old, his father would let him drive the car so he could sleep between sales calls. His dad would say to him, "Max, when you can no longer count the fence posts, you're going too fast." When my grandfather died, my dad inherited the car. He would drive his friends throughout the backwoods of Florida until eventually it fell apart. My dad never forgot the lessons he learned from his father about providing for his family, frugality, how to sell, and how to be with his children. I'm thinking my father was thinking back on the time in his life when he bought me a go-kart for my 12th birthday. Unfortunately, the backwoods of Garden City, Long Island, bear no resemblance to the backwoods around Gainesville, Florida. Eventually, the police told my dad that if they caught me on the streets with my go-kart one more time, they were going to take his license. It was probably past time for the go-kart to be sold. I used to fill the gas tank of the go-kart with a gallon milk container that I would fill up by riding my bike to the closest gas station a couple of miles away. After filling up the go-kart one day, I thought I would try a little experiment with my friends. What would happen if I dropped a lit match in the nearly empty milk container? I dropped the match while standing on the curb just to be safe. On the third try, I got it. The instantaneous lesson I received in volatile gases was a plume of flame 8 feet out of the top of the milk container. It turned my eyebrows and my eyelashes into white ash. I ran in fear from the curb to the house to find a mirror and see what I had done. On the way into the house, I ran straight into my dad in the garage. He took one look at me and smiled and asked, "What'd you do, drop a match in the gas can?" When I regathered my wits, I found him and asked him, "How did you know?" He said, "I did the same thing when I was your age." My father was wise and knew just how to play me. After college, I was in no rush to get a serious job. I'd worked as a ski instructor in winter and pretty much played in bands and surfed in the summer. He was happy for me at first and probably a little jealous for a while, and then he was just fed up. So eventually he called me up and said, "Lance, I'm getting older and I'm thinking of retiring. If you have any interest in the business, you should start now. Otherwise, I'm just going to sell it." He knew I planned on going into it at some point. He also knew that he had no intention of retiring, and he worked for another 25 years. But what he didn't know, or maybe he did, was that I was almost unemployable at the time. He fired me 3 times, and I completely deserved it. Eventually, I found my purpose, and our working relationship became great. After about 10 years, he turned to me from his desk just 5 feet from mine and said, "Lance, I think it's time I made you president." It's a small company, and we all do pretty much everything together, so I wasn't exactly sure what he meant. So I asked him, "Thanks, Dad, but what does that mean exactly?" Clearly, that question caught him off guard, and he had to think about it for a while. Eventually, he said, "We'll switch desks." But I'm keeping this stapler. It's the only one that works. So we did. Half an hour later, when a worker came in of him complaining of a broken machine, he looked at him, pointed to me, and said, "See the boss." I can't tell you how fortunate I am to be able to have lunch with my dad for over 25 years, and we got to become best friends. And what of this business that my father and I have spent our careers at? Were it not for my mother's grandfather, it would never have happened. In 1865, Emanuel Braun came to this country from Germany by himself when he was only 15 years old. He worked at various trades around New York City till he saw a place to make his mark. At the age of 25, he made his dream a reality and started his own brush company. Think for a minute about New York City during this time in history. There were no bridges into Manhattan. The Brooklyn Bridge wouldn't be done until 1883. The Civil War had just ended. Custer was still fighting Indians out west. When I think of my heroes that have shaped my life, my great-grandfather has to be among them. His dream has supported our family and the family of dozens of workers for 145 years and 4 generations going on 5. As for my part as a father, I will let my children tell their own stories of their experiences with me. But I will say this: it is my greatest joy to be the father of Max, Bo, and Margot, and I am proud of you beyond words. You start out thinking you have so much to teach your children, and you wind up learning so much from them. I'm eternally grateful to my love, Sue, for bringing them into the world. You have truly blessed me. Nothing quite prepares you for the first time you meet your child. A mother has months of bonding. She gets to know the child grow within her. But for a father, it is almost an abstraction. But when you see your child for the first time, the love is so instantaneous, so great, and so pure, it almost knocks you over. And what is really amazing, and what all siblings should know, is that when the next child comes along, it happens again, and that love is multiplied. Love is not like a pie that gets divided among your children. Your capacity for more love just grows with each child. Sometimes I try to remember those moments of meeting my children when report cards come home or when other mishaps happen. Sometimes I forget. So what of our Father who art in heaven? What does he want for us, his children? It's hard to know, but as a father and looking back on the fathers who have shaped my life, I would have to say the following. He wants to provide for us when we think we have lost everything. He will smile at us when we screw up because he has seen it all before. With his infinite wisdom and patience, he will wait for us until we find our way. He wants to give us the courage to follow our dreams and make them a reality. He wants us to be teachers and students. In short, he will always be there for us. But most of all, he wants us to love him and be loved by him.